Okay, let's talk about one of the wildest entrepreneurial stories you'll ever hear. And believe it or not, it all comes down to one single swipe of a credit card.
Yeah, 900 bucks. I mean, think about it for a second. To most people, that's, what, a credit card bill you really don't want to see? It's a problem. But what if that debt could be the very first seed for something absolutely massive?
And we're not just talking hypothetically here. This isn't a what-if scenario. That $900 swipe, that's the real story of how Starbucks started. We're talking about a $100 billion empire, almost 40,000 stores around the world, all because one guy proved that your vision can be way, way bigger than your bank account. All right, so to really get how this all went down, we gotta rewind. Let's go all the way back to Seattle, 1971. This is where Starbucks began, but trust me, it was nothing like the Starbucks you're thinking of.
Yeah, and this is the crazy part. You couldn't actually buy a cup of coffee there. Like no lattes, no frappuccinos. You couldn't even get a simple black coffee. It was literally just a store that sold beans and equipment for coffee fanatics. And honestly, it probably would have just stayed that way if it wasn't for one particular guy.
And that guy's name was Howard Schultz. Now, he wasn't some coffee expert or a rich investor. Nope, he was just a salesman for a kitchenware company who noticed something kind of weird on his order sheets. This one little store in Seattle was buying a ton of his coffee makers. So he thought, I gotta go check this out.
And the second he walked through the door, it just clicked. He could feel the passion, smell the aroma. He literally called it love at first sight. Exactly. He saw past the bags of beans. He saw a brand, an obsession that had this massive untapped potential.
So flash forward a couple of years. Schultz is on a business trip in Milan, Italy. And what he sees there, well, it changes absolutely everything. The entire city was just buzzing with these incredible espresso bars. But they weren't just for grabbing coffee. They were these lively social hubs. It was a whole experience.
And that's where the big conflict starts, which you can see right here. Schultz comes back to Seattle totally fired up. His vision? To sell an experience. To create what he called a third place, somewhere that wasn't home and wasn't work. Right, but the original founders? They were stuck on selling a product, just bags of beans. It was a total clash of ideas, selling a culture versus selling a commodity.
So you can imagine Schultz is buzzing with this idea that he thinks is going to change the world. He pitches it to the founders, and they shut him down. Cold. Yep. They basically told him it was a distraction. It had nothing to do with their actual business, which was just selling coffee beans. End of story.
Okay, so this is a huge moment. Schultz is at a crossroads. Does he just give up on his dream, or does he go out and build it himself? Well, in 1985, he made his choice. He walked away from Starbucks to start his own coffee bar, his own way.
But there was a pretty big problem. He had this incredible vision, all the passion in the world, but practically no money. So what do? How do you even begin to build a business when you're starting from zero?
He did what so many entrepreneurs have to do. He took a massive, terrifying leap of faith. He took out his own personal credit card and made a $900 charge. That was it. That was his startup fund. A dream built on $900 of debt.
And with that money, he started his own coffee shop called Il Giornale. And you know what? It started working. It was gaining traction. Then you get this incredible plot twist. Just 2 years later, in 1987, the original Starbucks owners decide they want to sell the company. And guess who manages to pull together the money to buy it? The same guy they kicked to the curb. Howard Schultz comes back and buys the whole thing.
So now he finally has the keys to the kingdom. He merges his own shop with Starbucks, and at last he can start building the company he'd been dreaming about all along. He wasn't just in the coffee business anymore. He was in the third place business, creating that comfortable go-to spot for people to connect.
And the results were, well, just look at this timeline. They were absolutely explosive. He starts with 17 stores. Just 5 years later, when they go public, they're at 165. Fast forward to the year 2000, they've got 3,500 stores. And today, over 38,000. I mean, that is what happens when you have a vision that can scale.
So the big question is, how did he do it? Let's break down his strategy. First up, consistency. No matter where you are in the world, a Starbucks in Tokyo feels just like a Starbucks in Texas. Next, culture. He didn't call them employees, he called them partners, and gave them stock options and healthcare. That built a ton of loyalty.
And the third piece was just relentless innovation. Think about it, from the pumpkin spice latte all the way to creating one of the biggest mobile payment apps on the planet. And that actually brings us to what Starbucks is today. Because the real genius of the company now, it might not even be the coffee, it might be the money.
Get this. A full quarter, 25% of all US sales happen through the Starbucks app. That is insane. With over 34 million people actively using it, it's not just a coffee app. It's a legitimate fintech powerhouse.
And here's the truly brilliant part. All that cash people load onto their apps before they even buy anything, it's basically a giant, zero-interest loan from you, the customer, to Starbucks. There's a finance term for it, called float, and it gives them billions of dollars in cash to play with. So you could almost argue that Starbucks has become a bank that just so happens to sell coffee on the side.
Which really makes you stop and think, what business is Starbucks actually in anymore? Are they selling coffee, or are they a tech and finance company that's just using coffee as the fuel for its real engine?
All right, so let's boil this all down to the key takeaways. First lesson, vision is bigger than product. The whole third place concept was always way more powerful than just a cup of coffee. Lesson 2, debt can be leverage. That $900 wasn't a liability, it was the tool he needed to get started. Third, scalability is everything. It's one thing to sell a product, but scaling an entire experience, that's next level. And finally, putting employees first. Turns out, happy partners make for very, very happy and loyal customers.
You know, when you look at this whole story, the biggest lesson might just be this. It's not about the resources you have. It's about how resourceful you are. Howard Schultz didn't have the money, but man was he resourceful. He turned a tiny personal debt into the key that unlocked a global empire.
So we'll leave you with this final question, and it's really a question for you to think about. What's that small risk, that small leap of faith, that could totally change your future? What is your $900 idea?